Welcome back to Cheddar, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler. We are taking a closer look at the latest jobs numbers, crucial to this economic recovery. They did accelerate in May, but they were still short of economists' expectations. 559,000 jobs added last month, the unemployment rate falling from 6.1% to 5.8%. And earlier this afternoon, Heather Boushey, a member of the Council of Economic Advisors for President Biden, joined me from the White House to talk these numbers. Take a look.
This is certainly good news for the U.S. economy, for American families, and for all those folks that got jobs last month. This is now the fourth month in a row where we've seen steady gains in jobs, an average of about 540,000 per month each month for the past 4 months. And that's way above the 60,000 a month that we were seeing in the 3 months at the end of 2020. So this is certainly good news. It's also the case that we saw the unemployment rate tick down statistically significantly to 5.8%, the lowest that it's been since the beginning of the pandemic. So that is certainly good news.
And I'm looking at the report right now. Obviously, this all comes as the reopen is underway. More restrictions get rolled back, more businesses reopen. And of course, the vaccination effort ramps up as well with that July 4th holiday goal from the administration. I do see in May, non-farm payroll employment still down 7.6 million jobs from its pre-pandemic level in February of 2020. How long, from your purview, is it going to take to recoup all 7.6 million of those jobs?
Well, that's a great question. The first thing that we need to do, as you noted, is to get the pandemic under control, get those vaccines out there. And let's note that now over half of adults have been vaccinated. And of course, the survey that we're talking about today about jobs was done in the middle of May, right when the CDC told folks that if they were vaccinated, they could take their masks off. So I would expect that, as vaccines get out there, that we see more recovery in the labor market and the jobs market. But here's the thing, at the pace of jobs that we're seeing now, it'll take under a year and a half to get back all of those jobs, about 14 months, to get back all of those jobs that we had pre-pandemic. That's a long time, but it certainly we're moving in the right direction. And hopefully with more folks vaccinated, more folks having access to childcare and schools reopened and all the things that we know we needed to do, things are going to get back on track even faster.
I want to ask you, the administration and you and I have spoken about good paying jobs, new jobs that in cases don't require a bachelor's degree that we've heard from the Biden administration as part of the American Jobs or Infrastructure Plan that he's unveiled. But we still see 2.5 million jobs shy in that crucial leisure and hospitality sector since the pre-pandemic levels. Of course, we saw the bulk of the job gains here in the latest month of May happen in that space. 292,000 jobs created in the leisure and hospitality sector, which does include restaurants and bars as well. 2.5 million, though, still shy. And I think for anyone going out to a restaurant or a bar, they probably witnessed that firsthand. Do you anticipate that those 2.5 million jobs will come back, or that this economy is restructuring to think of life differently, that space differently post-pandemic?
Well, certainly the pandemic has had a significant effect on American families, American businesses. And so, I'm sure many folks are thinking about what that year means, the loss of so many lives and livelihoods. But as we look forward, this question about leisure and hospitality, restaurants, and all the things, all those services that were so hard hit by the pandemic, now that the vaccine is available to everyone as of April 19th, now that working age folks that are likely to staff those jobs are getting that vaccine, and those who want it and are taking advantage of it free across the country, are able to get both those shots. I think that'll help that sector a lot. But as you noted, this is one of the bright spots in this report. Significant job gains in leisure and hospitality. And this is a sector that has seen significant gains as the pandemic has gotten under control. But this is a bit of the industry that, it was hardest hit by the lack of being able to do that face-to-face contact.
It is interesting. We've seen about half of the states, many Republican-led states, basically do away, announced that mid-June, mid-July, they will be doing away with that supplemental federal unemployment benefit, $300 a week, that was part of the latest COVID relief plan to try to basically satisfy the labor shortages and get people back to work. Is that something that you agree with? And what is the best approach to address labor shortages that we see across industries, not just in the leisure and hospitality sector?
Well, here's the thing. We always knew that coming back from a pandemic would be a little bit bumpy. It was relatively easy to just turn everything off, but turning everything back on requires businesses getting back up and running, going through their rehiring plans and all the things, and finding that right match between the demand from customers and the supply of all the goods and services that our economy, needs to offer. So we've always known that this would take a little bit of time, and that's why we wanted to make sure that the unemployed had those benefits that they needed. As we've already noted, there are over 7 million jobs missing from our economy relative to pre-pandemic, and those unemployment benefits are designed to help those workers while we get everything back online. And those benefits, those additional benefits will expire in September, so there's not that much additional time left for those. But it's really important that for those who are out of work, no fault of their own, that they have that benefit, and that, as jobs come back online, as folks are, able to get back to work because we've dealt with COVID, that we'll get back to that better match between the supply and demand.
Let me ask you this, Heather. What would you advise companies that are facing real labor shortages? Their businesses might go under if they can't get more labor. What would you tell them?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different experiences out there across companies, all across the United States. One thing that we're seeing is that especially in those low wage sectors, those jobs that many of which were very dangerous during the pandemic, those face-to-face sectors where people were like, wow, this is really rough. We're seeing some of those firms say, well, we'll offer you a better wage. We'll give you some better working conditions. And, that makes sense. They've got to entice people back. They've got to tell those workers that their jobs are safe. And so I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. But, it's also the case that businesses got a lot of support through the multiple COVID packages that happened over the past year and a half. And, this is likely to be, a temporary blip as we get the vaccine out, as we get COVID under control. Things are getting back to normal.
The last question, Heather, that I have for you is about the labor force participation rate. Little change, 61.6%, 1.7 percentage points lower than February 2020. How do you anticipate, as this recovery gets underway, as those supplemental unemployment benefits end in September, how do you anticipate that number will change going forward?
Well, the good news is that because of the American Rescue Plan, we've pumped a lot of money into making sure that childcare centers can reopen and stay open and afford to do their business. And we've spent a lot of time and energy making sure that schools could reopen safely and get back to in-person schooling. So September is also the time when all those kids will be going back to school, hopefully in regular schedules. And that's going to help a lot, making sure that all those parents out there, all of those workers are able to, their children are being well cared for and in their right educational opportunities so that those parents can get back to work. So I think that, by the time we get into the fall and there's a little bit more normalcy in school schedules and care schedules, we'll be able to see that normalcy coming back to the labor market as well.
Okay, big thanks there to Heather Boushey, a member of the Council of Economic Advisors for President Biden, joining me just about an hour and a half ago.